Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business. And today I have an incredible guest, Brian Evans. Brian is a transformational coach, and our topic today is how to rediscover the power of possibility. What a topic. Brian, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate you having me on.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you today, Brian. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Brian is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Brian, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your business?
Absolutely. I am a certified executive leadership, business, and transformational life coach. I also am an expert speaker and panelist and an international best-selling author. I've had a coaching practice since 2004, headquartered in Los Angeles, California, but with clients throughout the world. I've been blessed to have clients, both individual clients and organizations representing 10 countries on 5 continents. And my practice is centered around a mission to inspire and empower all people everywhere to be, do, and live better. That's what gets me up in the morning, and that's what I integrate into every conversation I'm having, whether it's with clients or whether it's just people on the streets. Educationally, I have this wonderful dynamic mix of a Master of Arts degree in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica, paired with an MBA in finance from the University of Southern California. Which allows me and affords me the opportunity to make transformational changes with people across a wide spectrum of activities. And Mark, I absolutely love what I do every day on a daily basis.
Brian, that is one great CV. Congratulations on all of your success. But what I love about what you're doing, you're serving the world, and not just locally, you're serving internationally, which I am as well. And that is such a rewarding feeling, knowing you're making a difference to others. And also, you live in a wonderful area of the world, LA. I am hoping to be out there around August, September. I'm invited to a golf tournament for being brand ambassador for Craig Shelley Beverly Hills. So, Brian, if I'm in town, we must meet up for coffee.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I cannot wait.
So tell me, Brian, who are your clientele? What kind of customers do you look after?
Well, I'm so blessed, Mark, because I have such a wide, diverse group of individuals and organizations that I get to serve. I think in the 17 years that I've been coaching, consulting, advising, I counted a couple of years ago, and they represent 47 different industries. And so it's across such a wide cross-section of people that I get to serve, that I get to help, that I get to inspire and empower. And so it may look as varied as a dentist, a surgeon, a spiritual teacher. I've coached terrorism experts. I've coached YouTube celebrities. I've coached athletes. And what it boils down to, Mark, is this: every single person, regardless of what outer expression that they are doing in the world, has hopes, has dreams, has visions, has a sense of what it is that they want to be, what it is that they want to do, and how they want to live. And oftentimes they run into challenges of how to move from where they are to where they want to go. That's what I help them do. And so regardless of whether it's a C-suite executive or whether it's a stay-at-home mother or father, everyone has a desire to be, do, and more, do and live in a way that is a bit more than where they are right now. I help people to make that shift. So my customers are as varied as every customer, every person on the planet, because at the heart of every coaching is an individual who has a vision for something more in their life.
That's amazing, Brian. And that keeps it fun as well, that you are touching the lives of so many different kinds of individuals. Every day is a new challenge, is a new transformation. Every day is exciting because there is someone different that you're supporting and serving. That is so rewarding. Do you recall the ha-ha moment that led to the launch of your business?
I've got three that I really point to, really turning points in both my career, but even more importantly, Mark, in my life. Moments that were so powerfully shifting. It's where the quantum leaps took place. And those are the three that I point to when I say, how did I arrive from where I was to where I wanted to be, which is right here, right now. The first one, I was in my late 20s and I was an executive in a nonprofit organization, and I was being groomed to be the president of this organization. So I was overseeing the operations of this company, and had many staff and programs under my command. And quite frankly, Mark, I was struggling with it. I didn't have the expertise, I didn't have the guidance and support and knowledge how to really do my job at an exceptional level. And so over time, what happened was I started to burn out, and my executives, my leaders, the board, the president saw that I was starting to burn out, and they made a decision that it was time for me to leave. It was not my choice, it was their choice. But what came out of this, Mark, was this was the greatest gift in the world, because I ended up going to work for a company that either you or some of your listeners may be familiar with, Franklin Covey. And Franklin Covey, for those who don't know, is a productivity company that in the 90s revolved around a particular system of organizing values-based decision-making. And I went to work for them, and I learned for the first time, Mark, that there are people called coaches that can help people move and grow and develop through the challenges and through the areas that they don't know or don't know how to do well. And I thought to myself, my goodness, if I had had a coach, I would have been able to make that leap as an executive and grown through the challenges, as opposed to trying to run straight into them, which was very much like running into a brick wall. So that was the first aha moment that I had. The second aha moment was that I had a conversation about 6 years later with a coach who was a member of the program, the master's degree program in spiritual psychology that I was part of. And it was the first time that I had spoken to someone who had been highly successful as a coach. During the early the late 90s, the early 2000s, coaching was still sort of this a unicorn effect. It was this thing that highly successful people had coaches, or sports performers had coaches, but executives had coaches, but the people on the streets didn't often have coaches. It was seemingly beyond their reach. And this was the first person that I met who showed me that I could be working with people through all walks of life. And that gave me the confidence to start my coaching business in 2004. Fast forward to 2016, and I it was time for me to really up level my vision for my business. And this was quite an adjustment, even for someone who has been doing this growth work for quite some time. And so I reached out to one of my friends who had successfully made the leap to full-time impact coaching. And I borrowed on her sense of possibility long enough for me to explore my own sense of possibility and really start to gain the momentum that I needed in terms of serving and helping people as a coach. So those 3 points in time really dramatically shifted the trajectory of the work that I do and how I've been able to expand and serve people in a wider way.
Brian, thank you for sharing. And what I'm taking from that, and it's happened in my whole journey as well. Sometimes things happen to us that are out of our control. And at the time, we feel, oh, things aren't going how I want. Why is this happening? But then when you go back and connect the dots, there really is a blessing in every stressing. And some things that we think are not brilliant or not great turn out to be the very thing that we needed to really help us to catapult forwards. Would you agree there?
100, 1,000, 1,000,000%, Mark. I often coach my clients and coach even individuals who I'm having conversations with on the street to ask themselves the question, what is the gift in the struggle? There's always a gift in the struggle. So what is the gift? If I can look for the gift, then the struggle that I'm experiencing has meaning. Otherwise, we live a life of meaningless struggle. And that is just grinding. So instead, attune ourselves to look for what is the gift in the struggle. And when I do that, then I discover, oh, this has a meaning, a greater, grander meaning, even if it is difficult or painful or disappointing at the time. So you are 100% right on board.
There's always a gift in the struggle. That's a great tagline for you, Brian. What sets your business apart and what unique need are you filling for your clients?
Well, I think what I've shared so far that likely you have a sense of, and perhaps your listeners are beginning to have a sense of, Mark, is that I look at what's possible in a very holistic way. And what I mean by holistic way is that there are very few simple solutions when it comes to someone's life, their passion, their purpose, their vision, their dream, whatever terminology we want to use for what it is that lights them up on a moment-to-moment basis and a life-to-life basis. And so why approach it through one simple lens when a holistic solution is what's going to create a holistic benefit, holistic joy, holistic inspiration, holistic empowerment. And so one of the unique things, and I shared a little bit about it in my bio, to be able to bring in both the tactical sides of things, as well as the mental, emotional, spiritual sides of things. So we can create an entirely fulfilling experience for their life, for their leadership, for the people around them. When I say be, do, and live better, I'm not just talking about the individual I'm coaching, but I'm talking about their family. I'm talking about their coworkers. Yes. I'm talking about their community. I'm talking about their country. And ultimately, Mark, I don't think that it's unreasonable to say I'm talking about their world, the globe. But it begins with each one person in creating this holistically fulfilling life experience in all of its phases. That's what I think sets apart the work that I do. Is we start with that vision. When I take on clients, I'm taking on clients who are willing and open to creating a inspired vision so big that it scares them silly.
I love that.
Because what I often pair is that most of the people who I speak with, whether it's clients or people walking around, they're what I refer to as a supernova in a teacup. It is this unimaginable power inside each and every one of them, and yet we're holding it in a teacup like we're this little small thing. And my work is to help them recognize that you are the supernova, you are not the teacup that you've built around it.
Having a big vision is so important. And I interviewed Marie Diamond only a couple of days ago from The Secret movie, Brian, and she said something that really stood out to me, and it takes as much effort to imagine 100,000 people to 100 million people to serve. It takes the same amount of effort. So it's so important to dream big and to believe it's going to be an easy journey, because what we put in our mind is so important. Why is your service especially important in today's modern world?
Well, I think you just touched on it, Mark. The fact that when you say dream big, and certainly I'm a big fan of Marie Diamond and what she's advocating for in terms of the power of our ability to envision and create possibility, to tie ourselves to something so large that it scares us enough that it inspires us, because there's a very fine line between the energy of inspiration and the energy of fear. Yes. But it's about being willing to be right on that edge of uncomfortability with a vision so big that I'd say I can be a part of this, even if I don't know how. And so I'll simply take the steps that I know how right now, with guidance, with support, and begin to make my way down the path. You asked the question why it's important right now. I think that there's really three reasons why it's important in today's world, Mark. The first is that we live in what I refer to as a high crisis distraction cycle. High crisis distraction cycle. Now, what does that mean? We live our lives with people constantly telling us this very small thing is the highest priority, utmost, most urgent thing that has to happen in our lives, and we need to pay attention to it. Now, if someone, we've been through the pandemic, some of these things are in fact urgent life, sustaining things that we need to attend to. But some of them is, you didn't return my call, you didn't return my text. Why didn't you? And so we live in this constant state of being in a crisis mode. And I think what happens with crisis frequently is that our focus shifts to such a small, narrow degree. We put on blinders that we cut ourselves off from possibility. The second thing is we live, in my experience, in a state of a scarcity of stillness, listening, reflection, and reframing. And this is being fed more and more by our connection to the wonderful gift that is social media, the wonderful gift that is the internet. And yet there are certain parts of it that are pulling us out of ourselves 24/7. And listening as if the answers that we're searching for are outside of ourselves. And so I think this pulling of ourselves out of the silence and stillness of our own wisdom is part of why I do what I do on a daily basis, to help us remember that the answers are within, the wisdom is within, and possibility extends from within. The third thing, Mark, is fulfillment. We live in a fulfillment deficit world at the moment. I read a study recently through the lens of professionalism that only about 35 to 38% of people are fulfilled by their work. And frankly, this study was before COVID, and so chances are that it's changed even more since then. And yet there are studies after studies showing that when you have a high sense of purpose, you actually live longer. There's an organization called Clearview Health who did a study that revealed that those who had no sense of purpose or a low sense of purpose actually had a 2.5 times higher risk of dying compared to people who have very high sense of purpose. So purpose is not only something that's nice, it's convenient, it's something that I'm aiming for. It will literally extend your life, and even more than extending your life, Mark, what you and I know and your listeners likely know, it'll extend the quality, the experience,
Yes.
the joy of your life. And so that's what I think is so important right now between these dynamics, is to rediscover that joy, that possibility, that fulfillment in our lives. That's why I do what I do.
I have to agree with you that everything we have is within. We have the power within to rediscover our possibility and make it possible, Brian. Now, can you share just a few more details on the kind of services and products that you offer?
Sure. I think, as I shared, I work with really 3 different kinds of clients. There's executive coaching clients, there are business owners, and then there are personal coaching clients. You can call them life coaching. I call them personal coaching. And I think the easiest way to illustrate how I would work with each, Mark, is to give very brief examples of what I'm seeing right now with some of the clients who are coming to me. So executive coaching clients, there's a lot of new leaders who are rising up, and the new leaders are being placed in a position very similar to how I was when I was in my 20s without necessarily knowing how to lead. And so I'm working with them to create leadership skills, but most importantly, authentic leadership skills. Not leadership skills that they've learned in a book, not leadership skills that they model from someone who might have been effective in a different age, but the leadership skills that are required right here and right now. That's the new leaders I work with. The established executives are learning to face the new realities. Part of the new realities is the world post-COVID or during COVID and beyond COVID. But some of the realities are, how do they work with different people, different parts of the workforce that have different styles than their own? And so I work with them to recognize that the 20th century leader was very much the leader, the military style leader of do as I say. But the 21st century leader is a modern alchemist. They take the gold out of each person. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? How do you communicate well? And they become this alchemist where they bring out the best of people and they put it together, and it creates a synergistic effect. So that's some of the work I do with the executive coaching clients. Business owners primarily are about how are their businesses going to shift right now and in the near future. Because 14 months ago, their businesses looked very different than they do right here and right now. And so making that adjustment. Personal coaching clients, it goes back to what I was just speaking about, fulfillment. What is that thing, that's experience of life that you want to have in whatever phase? It may be in your health, your relationships, your finances, your career, your spiritual connection. But what is that life experience that you want to have that's going to allow you to be, do, and live better, allow your family to be, do, and live better, your world to be, do, and live better? And that's the work that we do. So those are how I engage in those 3 particular client groups.
And Brian, I know you have so many success stories from so many different individuals. I want you to pick just one that stands out to you.
I would say that the most memorable client that I've had was I actually coached the crown prince of a Middle East kingdom.
Ooh.
Yes, it was quite an extraordinary opportunity. We had 2 conversations. This was about 7 years ago. We had 2 conversations, and the reason why we were having these coaching conversations was because he had a desire to create greater equity for women in his kingdom. Now, to set the stage, as many of your listeners likely know, there are certain kingdoms in the Middle East that ascribe to laws and practices that create a distinction between the rights and opportunities afforded to men in the society and the rights and opportunities afforded to women. He has really a world-changing desire to create greater equity between the two. And yet he's operating in a system where for 1,000 years, there has been this stratification between the rights and opportunities for men and women. And so we talked about, well, what would it look like to plant seeds that will likely not bear fruit until long after he's gone from the planet? That to start with planting those seeds, he can make incremental changes during his lifetime. But if you're talking about 1,000 years of distinction, it may take 100 or 200 years for a really significant shifts to happen. But he becomes the gardener. He becomes the seed planter. He becomes a farmer for these possibilities during his lifetime, and to recognize that his work is simply to plant the seeds. They were two extraordinary conversations, Mark, that I really, really, really treasure. And I think that is so many people, when I speak to them, come to me and say, well, it would be easy if I had all of the money in the world to have what I wanted, to create what I wanted, to have that sense of possibility. And I tell them this story because this is an individual who has nearly unlimited wealth. And yet the vision that he has that is so powerful that he wants to see in the world is not contingent on wealth. It's contingent upon recognizing what he can do in the now, what he can do towards the future, and what he will do as his legacy of planting these seeds that will likely outlast his existence on the planet. So that's what I wanted to share about really one of my most memorable and remarkable clients.
That's really powerful, Brian. And I think we're all a bit guilty at times, thinking we want more money and we aim for money, and that's not the right approach. We should be seeing how we can serve and transform and really be of service to others, and the money and abundance always follows. So I like that you made that key point, that it wasn't about the wealth, it was about what he could do with his vision. That is really, really powerful. Now, you are part of a new book project, Navigating the Clickety Clack, with guest experts Dr. Joe Vitale, Adam Markle, Marie Diamond, Keith Leon, and the book's now become to a bestseller. Could you just share a little bit about your chapter of the book?
Sure. I'm so blessed. I feel so blessed to be a part of this, not only this book, but this movement towards offering people practical understandings, tips, tools, but also stories around how people have navigated the challenges and the difficulties that we were talking about earlier, and yet discovered the gifts in the struggle. And so that certainly is what I allude to in my chapter of my own clickety clack, my own dark nights of the soul, my own times where I faced a choice of whether I was going to move forward in my vision or whether I was going to retreat into my fear. And whether I was going to allow the power of possibility to lead and guide and pull me, even if I did not know how I was going to move from where I am to where I wanted to go. And I think the two takeaways that I would offer, Mark, to your listeners is, number one, in the chapter, I talk about reaching out to my friend, the coach, which was the third point I shared earlier of my aha moments, and saying, I need help. I have a vision, but I need help because I'm in fear and I don't know how to get there. And in my fear, I feel myself retracting. And so the power of asking for help. We are wonderful. Most of us are wonderful at offering help. We are very unpracticed at asking for and receiving help. It feels far more difficult to us. And what I say is it's not that it's difficult, it's simply unfamiliar. When we were kids, when you and I were kids, we asked for help all day, every day with absolutely no hangups about it. And yet as adults, we begin to identify asking for help with some sort of personal failure. That if I'm asking for help, then somehow I'm not self-sufficient. And so I try to turn that through a different lens, a kaleidoscopic lens, where we shift it just a little and say, asking for help is actually in service to the vision. It's in service to the service that we offer to others. We need to work together. We need to reach out for help, and we need to be willing to ask for it and receive it. So that's one of the key takeaways. The second takeaway,
Brian, let me just share. Key takeaway, what I loved. Asking for help is service to the vision. That is quality. I love that. Carry on.
Thank you. Thank you. So a visual, I want to offer a visual to your listeners. So think about a snow globe. You know, snow globe, when maybe it's a Christmas scene or something in a snow globe, and all of the stuff is settled on the bottom. And then we take the snow globe and we shake it up, and all of the glitter and everything spins around and swirls around. And for years, I've shared with my clients, we live in what I refer to as the snow globe effect. All of our stuff is settled right where we know it is. It's comfortable. Okay, I know where to find my stuff. I know where my things live. And then life comes along and it shakes up that snow globe. And all of our stuff starts flying around and it's swirling around. And oh my God, and I don't know where I am and I feel disoriented. And the thing to remember is that the snow globe always resettles. Yes. Now, it may resettle in a new place. Your stuff may resettle in a new place. The things that were uncovered will now be on top. The things that you thought were important will now be on the bottom. But it will resettle. And so many of us, myself included, you included, your listeners included, go through times in our life where our snow globe has been shaken and we're wondering, oh my God, this is never going to settle. It always settles. It always settles.
I absolutely love that. Brian, you have shared so many strategies of tips, guidance. I've really, really enjoyed having a conversation with you today. I love what you're about. I can tell how passionate you are about serving others, and you've gave so much wisdom. What a great show. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you or get a hold of you, Brian?
Well, you can reach me through my website, which is brianevanscoach.com, brianevanscoach.com, or I am on the social media channels at Brian Evans Coach. So very consistent on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So feel free to reach out to me that way. I'm happy to receive any contact, or if you just want your daily dose of inspiration and possibility, I post fairly frequently. I welcome you to check out those social media sites. Find some way to lift yourself up on a daily basis, whether it's my stuff or someone else's. Help you remember the miracle of life that you are.
If you would like to get from where you are to where you want to go to brianevanscoach.com or connect with him on social media at Brian Evans Coach. Brian, thank you so much for being on the Brilliance Business Show. I've really enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's absolutely my privilege and pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been my pleasure. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.